My name's Tim Lucas with MyMortgageInsider.com, and I'm here interviewing Blair Warner, CEO and founder of Upgrade My Credit. He has a professional credit solutions firm out of Arlington, Texas, and he's going to talk to us a little bit about fixing your credit and also what you can do to keep your credit healthy. How are you doing, Blair, today?
I'm doing fantastic. It's actually really hot today down here, though. It's over 100 in Texas, so
Yeah, I wouldn't know what that's like here. We got a max of about 70 today. I'm in the
oh man.
East Seattle area in Bellevue, so we're enjoying the overcast skies right now. I'm looking outside right now to the green trees and the overcast skies, so it's pretty nice. Can't complain.
Well, I can down here, so but only for a couple months. It's pretty nice down that. So
Yeah, but I'd gladly change places about January with you guys,
yeah,
I'm sure.
that's right.
So I want to talk to you a little bit today about fixing your credit. Your firm is all about repairing people's credit, getting stuff off their credit report that they don't deserve, and managing the things that they may deserve, which we'll talk a little bit about later. But I was reading on your website that you have a pretty amazing story about how you became the CEO and founder of Upgrade My Credit. And would you like to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I appreciate that. Everybody has a story, and I enjoy telling mine just because I hope that it can be an encouragement to people. But I was going along in life doing something else completely different industry and everything. And then my wife was diagnosed in 2000 with stomach cancer. And in 2003, she did pass away. But it's now been 10 years, and because of that situation, after we got over a period of grieving and adapting, of course, to all that happened, I began to look for something as a single father of 4 kids. I began to look for something that allowed more flexibility in time and so forth. And what I ended up in was doing some real estate investing. Flipped a few houses, rehabbed a few houses, and then being out there in the real estate world, I met a mortgage loan officer that we ended up starting a mortgage company together. He got his broker's license, and I got my loan officer's license. And this was back before the national, licensing testing. So all I had to do was get the Texas state license. And we were blowing and going, doing mortgages and everything until, as everybody knows, things blew up in '07 and '08 in the mortgage crisis and credit crunch. And so we had some decisions to make. I'm giving you the real short version, but we had some decisions to make, and we ultimately decided to close down our brokerage firm, and my partner went to go work for Wells Fargo, and I decided to start a credit repair company, Upgrade My Credit. And part of the reason I decided to do that is I wanted to stay in the industry somehow. But I'd also been helping our clients when our mortgage company was in existence. I was kind of designated the guy that was going to help people who needed some credit work or some credit help before they could qualify for a loan, and I got pretty good at it. So I decided to start a credit repair company, and since then I've gotten some certifications and taken some classes and conferences, and it's just I built a brand new business, and I love it. I'm still in the same industry. I still have the ability to help people, acquire the American dream of getting in the house, and I love it. It's great.
That's it must feel pretty good to help people with their credit. I know as a having a lot of loan officer experience in my past, just that disappointment that you have to tell somebody when you pull their credit and they have a 550 score or something. You're like, you're a nice person, nothing personal, but
Yeah.
there's no way in the world you're going to qualify for a house at this point. So that must feel pretty good to be able to upgrade people's credit as your company's name entails. Most people never see their credit report until they do apply for a loan, which was my experience as a loan officer. They are really surprised because maybe they went to a freecreditreport.com or something and pulled their credit and they said they had a great credit score. But then they go to a lender, they have the lender pull their credit. It's really horrible. They had no clue, or maybe they've never even seen their credit report at all before. Um, how would you suggest somebody goes about checking their credit before they actually need to?
Well, it's a very important part of the whole credit management process nowadays. And a lot of people, Tim, take that for granted right now, that they can just go pull their credit online or check. But as well as I used to, before the Fair Credit Reporting Act came into existence, you would sit across the table from a loan officer and they would turn you down or tell you were accepted or not accepted, and you never got a copy of your credit report. They didn't give it to you to take home. There was nowhere online for you to get it. One of the things that the Fair Credit Reporting Act does is for the consumers guarantee that at least once a year they can get a free credit report. And the only true free credit report is annualcreditreports.com. Okay, annualcreditreport.com. That's the only one that's really free, all three bureaus, but you don't get your scores. Okay, so uh, and which does, I mean, it does help if you're wanting to look and see what's on there and so forth, but people still need to know what their score is.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where all these other online sites popped up. And some of the popular ones, freecreditreport.com and so forth. The one that we use is privacyguard.com, and they can get on there. They can pull all three credit bureaus, see the reports, and they get 3 credit scores. The difference is that those credit scores are not the FICO scores that the lenders use. So again, it's still only a gauge for what what their score might be. It's called the Vantage score rather than the FICO score. So if they really do need to know what their FICO score is, and they're really getting ready to buy a house or a car, best thing to do still is to go to a lender, a mortgage lender, and let the mortgage lender pull it for them. But if you've got a good Vantage score, you probably got a pretty good FICO score. If you got a bad Vantage score, you're going to have a bad FICO score. They're not off that much. It just won't be accurate.
Right. And that is really important to know that before you walk in and become surprised. So let's say a person goes to their lender, their mortgage buddy, and he or she pulls their credit report, and they find out that they have some dings on their credit report that they didn't know about, or maybe they did know about but weren't aware of how much it was affecting their score. What's the first step they should take at that point?
Well, again, I refer back to the Fair Credit Reporting Act, which gives them the right to dispute, investigate, question. Unfortunately, the credit bureaus do not have to verify anything that the creditors report to them. All that the big 3 credit bureaus do is just take the information that creditors send to them, put it in a nice little report, and then send it out. So they don't verify it. It could be completely wrong. So as a consumer, if you find some stuff on there that's wrong, that's inaccurate, that maybe not even yours, because that happens. I mean, sometimes John Sr. stuff is on John Jr.'s report and vice versa. I had this one guy come into me once that said he and his sister's Social Security number were off just by the last number only, and a lot of her negative stuff was being reported on his credit report. So that happens. If you find that stuff is on there that you need to challenge, you have the right to do it, and you can I can kind of go in later about how to do that, but you need to be proactive about it, because again, the burden of proof is on the consumer, not on the credit bureaus.
Sure. So what's the most common error that you see, either whether it's a late payment that wasn't really there, etc.? What are those kind of errors that you most often see on somebody's credit report?
Well, to be most of the stuff on people's credit report is theirs. I mean, this whole thing about that's not mine, which is a very common way that a lot of credit repair companies will dispute things, and they'll just dispute everything and say that's not mine, and hoping to get the low-hanging fruit stuff that'll just kind of be deleted off or whatever. Most of the stuff I have found does not fall in the category of just that's not mine. Most of the stuff falls in the category of it's really yours, but it's got some sort of error, okay? And the most common errors that I see are 2 things. One, medical, okay? There's just very often the medical stuff that's being reported is being reported erroneously. For example, sometimes people think that their insurance company was supposed to pay for something and it didn't, and then now it's being reported as a collection, but it shouldn't be, because it was supposed to be paid by the insurance company. Another thing that I see on there is just how it's being reported. So, for example, Um, let's say that you have a cable bill that you did get behind in, or you did get into collections, but they tag on all these fees and all these penalties and interest, and instead of being $179, now it's $479. Well, that's wrong. You have the right to dispute that, and at the very least get that back down to the correct amount of 179 before you even start dealing with it. So those are the most common type mistakes. The other one might be related to divorced couples, and stuff that was being supposed to be reported for the ex, and now it's being reported on both, and all that kind of mess up. That's a whole nother story.
Yeah, that can be frustrating. I dealt with a lot of borrowers who had medical collections, and that just, a lot of times is just a really sad story about how they came down with some kind of, life event, medical event that really wiped them out, and it was really destroying their credit. It's really unfortunate. So glad you're working with people on getting some of that stuff corrected.
Tim, I've seen an $8 medical collection before, and it ruins, not one item doesn't ruin their credit, but it affects their credit for one little $8 collection from some medical thing that the insurance didn't pay. It's crazy. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, pretty ridiculous. And you talked about, you went into a little bit about the laws that are affecting people's credit scores and credit reports, and you mentioned on your website that there's up to 240 laws that go along with making sure that credit reports are correct. And so would you go into maybe one or two of the most major laws that people should be aware of?
Well, the body of laws that govern reporting in my business pretty much are the Fair Credit Reporting Act, which governs how creditors can report to credit bureaus and how the credit bureaus can aggregate that information and report it and so forth, and it gives the consumer rights. The other one is the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act, which is governs collection companies and how the rules around how they can collect and bill and billing errors and when they can call you and when they can't, all very detailed. A couple of others would be HIPAA laws. Of course, we mentioned the medical. HIPAA laws have to do with how medical information and the whole privacy stuff related to medical, how that can be reported. There's auto repossession laws. RESPA governs mortgage reporting and foreclosure and so forth laws. So those are some of the bodies of laws that govern all that.
Great, yeah, it's definitely good information to know. Glad that there's an expert out there that knows that stuff, because I'm sure most people don't want to go through 240 laws, some of which are probably hundreds of pages long. So thank you for making that sacrifice for the rest of us who have no desire to delve into those subjects. But you say in your website an interesting thing. One of your goals is to free people from the bonds of debt. Are you completely anti-debt, or do you just want to help people manage a certain amount of debt?
There are gurus out there that just talk about being debt-free and paying cash for everything. And if you're born, if you're a what do they call it? Oh man, I had a brain freeze. Whenever you have a trust child, where you're
a trust fund baby.
Yeah, trust fund baby. That's the word I was looking for. If you're a trust fund baby and you can pay cash for everything, sure. Why should they ever get anything in debt? Or, or if you're able to get out of college and wait until your years before you start buying major things like houses and cars, maybe you can do that. The reality of it is that you're going to have a little bit of debt. I mean, a mortgage, a car maybe, and the only way to build that up is, of course, you got to have some credit to be able to get some credit, and so you start small. And so I'm not anti-debt. That's why I chose those words very carefully. Freedom from the bondage of debt, because I'm not against debt, but you don't want debt to control you. You want to control your debt.
Yeah, that's one of the frustrating things that I dealt with some customers, that they had completely paid cash for everything. Good on them, but without a credit card or some kind of credit history, it's really hard to get them approved for a loan, because without any history, you don't know how they're going to behave in the future, which sometimes on certain loan types like FHA, some companies will take non-traditional credit, like show me your past 12 months utility bills, and we'll try to put together a credit report for you. But those are always really tough to do, and I appreciate your view there, and just having a little bit of debt enough where it's not controlling you, but you're controlling it, and I love that philosophy. So thank you for that. And
Well, you hit something on the nail that what lenders want to see is basically they're saying, why should I lend you money? I mean,
right.
that's the basic question. Well, how are they going to be able to know if they can lend you money if there's not any history at all? So you got to have, like you said, you got to have some history.
Yeah. And so let's say somebody does have history, going back to the derogatory items, and on your website you say you want to clear errors off people's credit reports. So what if they have a derogatory item on their credit that they truly do deserve? They made the late payment, they went through the bankruptcy. What are steps that you take to make sure that you're being ethical in clearing some of these items off?
Well, one of the first things I do is I do exercise for the client, I exercise their right to investigate every single item on their credit report. Even if it's yours, that's not, because we're not saying it's not yours, but what we want to do is we want to make sure that it's being reported correctly. Everything down to the last penny were the correct amount, or the start date, the date of last activity, where it says you were late 30 days late 3 times. Well, maybe you feel like it was only 2 instead of 3. And so one of the things that we do is I investigate just about every single derogatory. The first step is I send out letters and say, show us documentation related to this, show us that this is the correct date, show us that this is the correct amount. And if the credit bureaus or the creditors can't do that within 30 days, they got 30 days to verify it, well, then they're supposed to delete it, because it's illegal, according to the Fair Credit Reporting Act again, it's illegal for them to report something that's inaccurate or unverifiable.
Hmm. And you may be a little bit biased here, but what are some reasons that somebody should come to you, a professional, rather than trying to draft letters on their own and send them into the credit bureaus?
Well, for one thing, the credit bureaus get 20,000 disputes a day, across the United States. And you know that not human beings don't read that, every single one. They have optical character recognition that reads them computerized. So there are ways that you can draft the letters, and there are departments that you can send it to that will have a greater chance of a human being reading the letter. That's the first thing. The second thing is that you're right. The individual could probably send, most individuals could probably send that first letter. All you're doing is saying, I think there's some errors in this. I didn't really start this account on January 1st of 2008. Please verify this. Every person could probably send first letter. The question is when that comes back, that letter comes back, then what's the next step? And that's where most people, including myself before I got in this business, would not know what to do. And so some of the advantages is that with our experience and understanding of the industry and of the laws, we kind of know the process of how to take it to its fullest extent until we achieve what the borrower is trying to achieve, which is a cleaned up credit report, an optimized credit report, and increased scores over time.
So in short, leave it to the professionals if it gets a little bit too hairy.
Well, that and the learning curve they're going to go through. So just speed. I mean, we might be able to do in 6 months what would take an individual 2 years to do, because of the learning curve and time. So you're right, absolutely.
Right. So, going backtracking a little bit, what are some things that somebody can do today to make sure that they never need a professional service like yours? And, how do they keep their credit healthy?
Well, if you have good credit right now, and to keep from of it getting worse and having bad credit, the common sense answer is that just need to never always make your payments on time. Make sure you have enough credit too. I mean, there are people that have one mortgage, one car, one credit card, and they're never going to get in the 700s credit scores with just that. Okay, so they need to make sure they have enough credit going on. Find yourself right now with bad credit in the 500s, and you need in 600 or 700. It's never too late to start making your payments on time today. I mean, you might have been 30 days late 3 months ago in April, but you can start from day never being late again. And what that will do is FICO looks at the most recent 12 months, and then after that, the next 12 months. So the most recent 24 months more than any other period of time. So the further you get away from that last derogatory mark, the less effect it's going to have on your score. And definitely once you get 24 months out, a 30-day late is going to hardly have any significant impact on your score. Okay. If it's more than just lates, in which people obviously have stuff that have been in judgments and collections and tax liens and stuff like that, be honest with you, I think it would just be too complicated for people to do it themselves. Call someone like me up. Let us analyze your credit report and give you some advice and feedback. You know.
Well, that's a great advice. Appreciate you talking with me today, Blair. And two websites that everybody watching needs to check out. MyMortgageInsider.com is a website all about mortgage and real estate. Learn how to buy a home, refinance, anything you want to do with real estate. And also UpgradeMyCredit.com, which is Blair's website. You can read more about Blair's philosophy, what he does, how he does it, and how you can contact him. And just to clarify, Blair, you're a nationwide company. You can take anybody across the nation and fix their credit?
Yes, absolutely. Again, the Fair Credit Reporting, well, Fair Credit Reporting Act and the Credit Repair Organization Act, CROA, says that if you're licensed in the state where your corporate is, then you can do business nationwide. So I can take clients nationwide. And interesting, even clients that are here local, probably 75% of them, we still do everything without ever meeting each other. So it can be done.
Great. So anybody across the country, call Blair. If you have credit problems, you have a question, give him a call. He'd love to talk to you. And otherwise, yeah, visit mymortgageinsider.com, and we'll see you soon.